Hi guys, and welcome back. I'm Alexandra. This is Saturn-ruled 9, and this week we are looking at week 4 of the Bachelorette. I almost forgot the name. I've tried to sit and record this video like 2 or 3 times now. My brain just did not work at all yesterday, so I really hope we can get something out of today. I have nothing else to say, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so the episode begins in Stevenson, Washington. That's their new destination. Pacific Northwest is lovely. And Xavier kicks us off with the best nineism ever. He says something like, the lodge is very cozy, and he can't wait to be on the couch with a blankie, Charity in his arms, la la la. And he has like the half, his eyelids are like half sunk down, and he just looks very, he genuinely looks like he loves being a 9. So what a great way to just kick off the episode. Anyway, then Jesse comes in, he gives them the date card, and we find out that Dotun gets the one-on-one, which we knew from the teaser last week, but still we're excited about Dotun getting a one-on-one. Inside, the men are talking about how it's just platitudes, how week to week, as things progress and they develop more feelings, it becomes more and more difficult to see her go on dates with other men, and they're just, this is just like something they do on the show. They talk about how deep their connection is with Charity. Brayden is in the back side-eyeing everyone. He is not buying the conversation. He thinks it's all sketchy. He basically expresses confusion to the camera on how anybody can feel the way that they do. He thinks that because he's had the most time, his connection is the only one that makes sense, and everybody else is basically just full of shit. Brayden is like particularly annoyed with Sean, which, who wouldn't be annoyed with Sean? But yes, he compares him to Prince Charming from Shrek and makes fun of his butt chin. I think like does this for the butt chin. It was kind of funny. Okay, then we cut to Dotun and Charity on their one-on-one, and we quickly find out that they are going to go bungee jumping. While they're getting ready, Charity is legitimately afraid. She talks to the camera, and at some point she starts to tear up and stops herself, and she says it's just because she's scared. Which I would be too. I wouldn't be bungee jumping. Dotun is pretty cute with her. He reassures her that everything's going to be fine. And, they basically both walk on the platform really snuggly, really just like really cuddled into each other. Then it's time to jump, and they both look so dissociated while they do. Just 2 9s, just numbed the fuck out as a survival response. They love it. They're exhilarated, and they even do it a second time. And the second time they look much happier. This time, of course, because they know what to expect. The side-by-side comparison between the first time and the second time, it's great. Charity tells the camera that she feels protected, and she emphasizes that she's always the one to do the looking out for in her partnerships, but that this time it felt really nice to feel looked after and taken care of. And that basically wraps up their day portion. At some point, they're looking at a rainbow, and they both sigh at the same time and then have a good laugh about that. I think Charity even says something like, "How are we so in sync?" You're both 9s. It's very easy to know how you're both in sync. Okay, then we cut to the men at the lodge, and we cut to Brayden and Xavier with their backs turned to the camera, and Brayden is just complaining about Charity being in Bachelorette mode all the time and how he wishes that she could just be off with him for a minute. And to contrast this, we move to Aaron inside talking more shit about Brayden. Aaron is pissing me off at this point. I'm just kind of over seeing him lie to himself about his motives towards Brayden. The only real thing that Brayden has done wrong is be annoying. I guess there's like an argument that he shouldn't be here if he can't see himself getting down on one knee at the end of this with certainty. I hate that I'm using the language of the show. But he actually hasn't done anything wrong. Aaron is just annoyed by him. Brayden is just annoying. And Aaron either cannot admit that to himself because it's mean, or he can admit that to himself, but doesn't think it's a good enough justification to be angry. So then he's finding this moral reason to use as a vehicle to express his anger and irritation. I can, of course, empathize with Aaron. Brayden's annoying. His voice is annoying. His general way of being is annoying. He's probably loud. He takes up a lot of space. And as a 9, it's probably very disruptive to your environment. But yeah, this is Aaron's 9 ego not allowing him to own his own anger and irritation, especially from like a personal human place. So instead of just owning that, he borrows from his one wing that gives him a justifiable reason to channel this irritation and basically mask it as like protection of the moral code. Next, we have the group date announcement, and we find out that Xavier is getting the one-on-one, which we are also very excited about. And so, and so is Xavier. He's just jumping all over the place. He's screaming up and down. His excitement is vicious. No, it's not. It's enormously chill. If he wasn't smiling even a little bit, you wouldn't know that he was excited. Aaron is immediately annoyed about having to go on a group date with Brayden, as he's never been on one with him. And he says if he tries to compensate and makes her feel uncomfortable, that's going to be something to watch out for. He hates Brayden so much. I'm thinking part of it, too, is that Brayden probably represents some kind of like shadow insecurity for Aaron. Brayden clearly has no issues with taking up space and being loud and acting from his own like personal position. And Aaron is very like restricted. I know he's a 9 and he's like chill and stuff, but he's very, I don't know, you can see it in his posture. He's just always very upright. He doesn't actually have chill. He's one of those 9s that can't actually chill. He needs to release energy in order to get to that state, and he like can't do it. So to see somebody that just flings it around like nothing is probably very triggering to him. Probably invites some jealousy, some envy, and again, it's just masked as inappropriateness. Okay, so then we cut back to Dotun and Charity's one-on-one. This is the night portion, and they're roasting s'mores, which is super cute. Dotun tells the camera that they shared a fear together, and then they conquered a fear together. At some point, Dotun says, people have tried to put me in a box, but there's a lot more to me than, this is me ad-libbing, than what can be put in a box. And this is back to his quote. He says, and I can see there's a lot more to you too. Charity loves this, and she tells the camera, he's trying to understand and learn me for me, and I don't think anyone has ever taken the time to do that, which, as we covered last week, is probably very healing to her, especially having probably felt overlooked in the past. Anyway, then they have this like spicy makeout, and they both visibly look flustered, like they look excited and comfortable with each other, but also like titillated somehow. And then Charity gives him the rose. Okay, now it is time for the group date in the woods. Right away, Brayden annoys everybody because Brayden is just out here enjoying life. He's not wearing a jacket, and apparently it's to assert his dominance. So he's just in full 7 mode. Charity brings out 3 like Girl Scouts or something. The way she framed it, she said she was bringing out helpers that know the woods very well. I thought she was going to bring out dogs. So the fact that she brought out humans was a big, disappointment for me, but I will move on. Anyway, the men are tasked by these Girl Scouts to go find any food in the woods, and whoever brings back the most impressive, offering gets to have some extra time with Charity over by the kissing tree. The men all take off, and again, we get a nice montage of just Brayden being annoying as fuck. He's jumping into people's camera shots, he's eating mushrooms off the ground, he's just being loud and annoying, and he seems genuinely stoked. We cut back to the girls, and one of the Girl Scouts asks Charity who the smartest guy is. She asks, is it Joey? Is it Brayden? And Charity quickly cuts her off, and she's like, no, it's not Brayden. It's definitely not Brayden. And then we immediately cut away to Brayden just 7ing all over the place. Like, he's making it so easy to be framed this way. Okay, time's up. It's time for all the boys to show what they've found. Brayden keeps biting into this beat. Tanner at some point says, do less, which is the most impossible thing to ask a 7 to do. 7s can only do more. They would rather die than do less. Then we move on to a different section where the girls ask the men to answer some questions, and if they answer well, the kissing tree, blah, blah, blah. They ask questions like, how would you keep Charity warm without a fire? Who from the group would you eat in order to stay alive? And everybody unanimously says Brayden, which I think gives Charity a major ick. Like, I'll show her face here. Even as a social type, I think she got really socially icked out by the fact that he was unanimously hated. The other question is, how do you want this journey to end? And everybody says all the right things, down on one knee, engaged, I don't want this journey to end. And then Brayden's answer is content, which is obviously the wrong thing to say, even though it's completely logical. At some point, while the Girl Scouts are deciding who the winner is, Brayden tells the camera that he keeps hearing the men say things like, earn it, and win it, and blah, blah, blah about her love and affection, Charity's love and affection. And he's just very confused by it because he says, Charity's just going to pick who she likes, and she likes me, so she's going to pick me. Besides the obvious 7-ish positive, self-regard here, I also wonder if he's just oblivious to the sort of like collective group focus that 9ness has. Brayden just operates from such a self-focused place that he cannot fathom Charity not operating off of the same programming. He doesn't understand why anything would be merit-based, which is how all of the other men are seeing this. He thinks everything should be enjoyment-based, stimulation-based, just like what is good for you is what you should do. Whatever. Erin wins the extra time. Brayden doesn't get it. He criticizes Erin for not giving her anything but like generic nothings. He calls him a cookie cutter guy, and that if Charity wants a cookie cutter guy, she's definitely going to get that out of Erin, which is true. And that basically concludes the date. Then we move to the night portion, and the men talk about engagement and the process with more sort of generic affects. Brayden is super annoyed by this point. He says it's hard to relate to anything they're saying. And this is a good time to explain the difference between Hexad types and attachment types. I have previously called them triangle types because attachment refers to the object relation. So I would prefer to say triangle type versus Hexad type. On the actual shape of the Enneagram, the triangle types are points 9, 3, and 6. They're all connected to make a triangle, while the Hexad types are the other 6 types. You'll notice that it's not 3 triangles. It is like one weird squiggly shape with the 6 types on it, and then the triangle types. Okay, this is a big topic to cover, so I'm going to add a bunch of links to podcast episodes and references that I've either been a part of or have consumed myself in order to give you guys more options if you want to look them up yourself. What the 3 triangle types have in common is that they all share the object relation of attachment. Object relation is how you related to your primary caregivers at the beginning of your life. And the attachment strategy is implemented when your caregiver missed a certain need of yours. Instead of just accepting that that miss happened, you try to wiggle back into the favor of your primary caregiver. Attachment is basically trying to stay in the good graces of whatever source it is attached to. And when it falls out of those good graces, it will adjust itself in order to fall back in the good graces. An example of this would be if I feel I'm being disruptive to my environment, I will adjust myself to be less disruptive so that I am more likely to stay in the good graces of whatever I'm attached to in the moment. And in that example, you can already see why everybody hates Brayden. He does no adjusting to make other people comfortable. But back to attachment, another main part of attachment is that in order to stay in good graces, 3, 6, and 9 has the primary focus on the preferences of the other person. To use the show as an example, everyone knows that Charity wants to get engaged by the end of this. Their primary focus is on Charity, so they are adapting to Charity's preferences by automatically adopting a mentality of wanting to get engaged at the end of this, even if that's not actually what they want. Other people's preferences first, and then once that is established, I can remember my own preferences. 9, 6, and 3 both struggle to put their own preferences first. They do it in 3 different ways. This is clearly a predominantly 9 episode, so we're seeing the 9 style of attachment. We'll get to 3 and 6 some other time. Okay, now compare this to the Hexad type. The object relations of the remaining Hexad types, so 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, are either frustration or rejection. Those are both 2 different styles. We'll get into that at some other point. But the main thing to take away is that they are not trying to get back into the good graces. When their caregiver missed their needs in early childhood, they lost faith in their caregivers and decided to take it upon themselves to nurture or guide themselves moving forward. This means that they are not trying to get back into the good graces of those original caregivers of whatever their attachments are. They are thinking of themselves first, and once their own needs are established, then they have the space to consider the people that they care about. So Brayden being confused by all of the 9s mysteriously being on board with Charity's desires speaks to his confusion of the attachment style from a Hexad perspective. Brayden cannot imagine signing on to something that does not align with him, while the other men and Charity, all 9s, cannot fathom not trying to get on the same page as somebody else, not trying to be in each other's good graces first, and then working towards your individual places second. This is important to point out because I think the majority of the dynamics we're going to see on reality TV ever will be attachment types. So again, 3, 6, and 9, with a sprinkling of Hexad every now and then, and it's mostly going to be 7. So Brayden. Okay, back to the show. Everybody is sitting down. They're all criticizing Brayden. Why are you here? You're wasting everybody's time. At some point, Sean does very accurately point out that Brayden's goal of just having a connection differs from Charity's goal of wanting a husband, wanting to get engaged at the end of this. So we can thank the 3 the competency type for laying that out so clearly. With that simple formula, Brayden should leave because his goal, his end result, is different from Charity's. But whatever, they continue to argue, and in the midst of this argument, Charity walks in. She demands to know what the problem is, and immediately all the men are sharing their frustrations with Brayden. Brayden's kind of just sitting there quietly, and then Charity asks to speak with Brayden. That's not a surprise to anybody. Another thought I had is that I wonder if the men also just can't believe that Charity could genuinely have an attraction for Brayden if he's not on board, if he's not playing ball, playing the attachment game that all the other men are playing. You know, as was pointed out earlier in the episode, the men do think this is merit-based. So how could somebody not trying to earn love be having any attraction in their direction? Okay, I didn't think there was very much to say about her conversation with Brayden. They basically just rehash the same stuff. Brayden tells her that he's confused about why she was so mad at him. Charity says, I wasn't mad at you, which is insane. You were totally mad at him. Charity says that she's annoyed because she has given him so much validation and so much reassurance, and she's made it very, very clear that she's into him, and somehow that still is not enough for him. He needs more validation, more reassurance. If you look really carefully at this argument, you can actually hear that Charity is operating on a merit-based system too. She is expressing her frustration that her reassurance is not enough, but if you look a little deeper than that, what she's saying is, I'm doing what you need me to do and it's not working, and she's frustrated that it's not working. The issue is not that she's not doing what he needs him to do. He's just jealous. He has feelings that are coming up. Maybe he didn't think he was going to actually feel something for her, and now he is, and now he does have feelings, and it's just more complicated than that. She asks him what he's feeling, which is, my God, I know that move. That is her way of trying to get his location. And he says, I feel like I like you, but I feel like I don't want to be here right now. So she walks him out. She tells the camera that Brayden is the old and that this is a road she doesn't want to go down anymore. And yeah, he leaves. Something that came to mind for me in this part was that, yeah, maybe Brayden is the old. He's juvenile, he's loud, and maybe those are some things that she's outgrowing, some qualities that she's outgrowing. But a big part of the thing she needs to outgrow is this people-pleasing quality, this merit-based attachment system. That's not going to go away unless she acknowledges that. She will continue to run into Braydens that reactivate her object relation of people-pleasing. So in some weird way, there's a way she could actually learn from Brayden's self-focus. Anyway, she comes back to the guys. She tells them that Brayden has left. She says she's confident in this decision, which is weird because he's the one that said he wanted to leave. And whatever, she continues the night. There's this montage of her enjoying everybody and doing the best she can. She looks a little spaced out and a little like she doesn't want to be there to me, but I think eventually she does lighten up again. And it was during this montage that I realized that Charity probably confuses people wanting an engagement with people wanting her. Or maybe it's the other way around. She thinks that if people don't want an engagement, that means they don't also want her. This is some weird new self-effacement, some weird new self-deleting. If you don't want an entire commitment with me at the end, that means you couldn't possibly like me right now. And all the other men being on board with that is probably what made Brayden's deviation from the norm that much more extravagant and dramatic and problematic to her. Okay, she gives the group date rose to Joey. Is Joey going to be the next Bachelor? I don't understand their relationship. Like, it's fine, but he's almost too cookie cutter. He seems to be developing in the show without developing as a character, so I think he's going to be the next triple projectable lead. He's probably going to be the next Bachelor. All right, now we have moved on to Xavier. I found out his name is Xavier, not Xavier. So we move on to Xavier's one-on-one. Right away, Xavier looks like I said this earlier, but he looks like he just loves being a 9. When you compare his energy to Aaron's or even Dotun's, Aaron is just so stiff. He looks so uncomfortable. He looks so self-conscious. Xavier truly looks like he's just chilling out. His eyes are barely open. He has this like half smile all the time. He's just knitting all day. He just really enjoys 9-ness. Okay, Charity tells the camera that there's physical attraction with Xavier, and that he's definitely a boyfriend, but that she doesn't know if he's a husband yet, and that's what she's going to use this time to find out. They go to a fruit festival, which doesn't look very festive to me, and they wander around. They're playing with lavender. They're smelling this. They're smelling that. They're doing apples, things. And at some point he tells the camera that he loves to be able to just be and exist and just vibe. The Enneagram is so real, it's unbelievable. That was a 9 saying he just fucking loves to be a 9. Like, I can't even simplify that to make fun of it. That is as simple and as base as 9ness can get. He loves to just be and exist and just vibe. Self-pres 9s really do have the monopoly on the vibe and on chill vibing time. Like, I'm a 9 and I have self-pres in my stacking, and I think I'm pretty good at that. But man, anytime I meet a self-pres, I'm just put to shame. Okay, she tells the camera that she likes being with Xavier, she likes how goofy they are, but basically he reminds her of her ex, and that worries her. She says that he compliments her a lot, but she doesn't want to be wanted just because she's pretty or attractive, which was very amusing to me because I used to say that shit all the time. Okay, stackings. In John Luckovich's book, The Instinctual Drives and the Enneagram, he talks about the 6 stackings and how each particular stacking can demonize their blind spot. So a quick lesson on how this works. There are 3 instincts. Social is the drive to connect and bond. Self-preservation is the drive to collect resources and nourish and care for your physical well-being. And sexual is the drive to attract and arouse. So the way this works is we each have all 3 instincts, but we have them in a stacking where they have different priorities. The highest priority is our dominant instinct. The most casual priority is our middle instinct. And then the bottom instinct, or the blind spot, is the instinct that is most neglected, overlooked, and demonized. In the book, John explores the idea that we are so fiercely identified with our dominant instinct that we see any attention that goes to our blind spot as actually taking away from our dominant instinct. So to apply this to the show, Charity is a social, self-preservation, sexual. That is her stacking. Social, self-preservation, sexual. I have the same stacking. And what I'm pulling from her saying that she doesn't want to be chosen for just being attractive is that she thinks that being chosen for her sexual appeal will take away from her dominant instinct, which is to connect and bond. It's to create intimacy. It's to have connection. Yeah, so more simply put, if Xavier just finds her pretty, he's not going to want to connect to her as much because the attention that should be put on connection is being put into her sexual appeal. Anyway, she does seem to recognize that she's projecting, which is good. Especially as a body type, her body is likely associating these like familiar senses that she has with Xavier and her exes to the outcome that those senses led to. Remember, she was cheated on. So she's probably connecting these like good feelings in the beginning with being cheated on. Okay, so now we cut to them on a train together and they're cuddled up. He's like 2 inches from her face, which is just way too close and probably doing nothing to like assuage her fear that he's only attracted to her. And yeah, they talk about how they've grown from this experience so far, but neither of them really give examples. She does look nervous with him and he doesn't really look that nervous with her, but she definitely likes him. She's definitely attracted to him, definitely made nervous by him. Beyond that, there's really nothing I pulled from this scene. So let's just cut to the night portion. She tells the camera that she needs to know how loyal of a guy she is. Again, this is just based on her projection that he's like her ex who was a cheating bitch. They immediately jump into a conversation about past relationships, and he very adorably brings up that his worst fear is to not have his love reciprocated back to him. Charity somehow thinks that this is compatible with her fear of being cheated on again, and it's good from there. In case this part wasn't clear, these are both very classic 9 fears. Not necessarily being cheated on. I think that's just like a normal thing nobody wants. But Xavier's fear of basically being overlooked is very, very typical for 9. 9s also make themselves overlooked very easily by not putting themselves out there, but it's a very trademark 9 fear. He goes on to talk about his dad's devotion to his mom while she was suffering from MS and how observing that influenced his career. He's getting a PhD in something related to MS. Anyway, Charity is very moved by this. She says that she sees his character as a person, and she gives him the rose. All right, now we are at the cocktail party. The men are talking about how comfortable going into tonight's cocktail party is since Brayden isn't here to mess anything up, which is very funny considering Brayden's not here and they're still talking about him, so he's still here. Charity comes in and she gives them a little speech. She's in this like fluffy white thing and her hair looks like, I don't know, old style waves and stuff. It's cute. And then she starts to have alone time with the men. She's got some with Aaron. There's nothing of note there. She has some alone time with Dotun, which is very cute because she brings him a picture of herself when she was little, which is some good revealing as a 9. But who knows how objective my senses are now that I've imprinted on Dotun. But it does feel personal. She's very giddy. She says, "That's me," in like a little kid voice. It was cute. She likes him and feels comfortable with him, and they should get married. She has some alone time with Joey. They really just make out. And then she has some alone time with Tanner. She pulls him outside, says they're going to look for Sasquatch, but really they're just going to make out. I don't know what the deal with Tanner is. I'm assuming he's going to just have more airtime in the future because, like, I still don't know. Who is he and why is he still here? Anyway, from this point, the show cuts to what are supposed to be Sasquatch feet walking in the woods, and it's really these like raggedy ass flip-flops in the woods, and this is the reemergence of Brayden. Yay. We cut to the men inside that they're just talking and toasting, and then Aaron sees Brayden come in, and it's this big moment for everybody. Brayden just walks on in there. He walks right past the men, and he just starts opening doors looking for Charity. Eventually, he finds Charity, and she's in a room making out with, with John. They both see him, and it's like a gasp moment. It's funny to think producers brought back Brayden because what kind of good drama TV was going to come out of like a billion nines just getting along for the rest of the season. Anyway, to no one's surprise, the men are mad. We cut to Sean at some point talking about how Brayden is back and his scarf is stupid. Then we cut to a producer saying, "But Sean, you're wearing a scarf too. What's different with your scarf?" And he says, "This is cashmere." We cut to Brayden and Charity talking now, and I really didn't get anything of interest here. Brayden basically just comes in to apologize. She says, "Okay, fine." And that's basically it. Like, there's nothing to analyze in this part. Not from my perspective, at least. I think most of the drama happens when he walks out because he tries to walk past them and again. Aaron stops him or tries to stop him. Brayden just pushes past Aaron and moves to walk out of the car. Aaron follows him out to the car and he's just like yelling shit at him. Just clearly very upset about the fact that Brayden is here and he's just had it by this point. So now he's just giving him a piece of his mind, I guess. At some point, Brayden tells Aaron, "You got a big dick, man. You're good," which was just a filthy cold read on Aaron, in my opinion. Aaron's basically trying to like puff up and show his dominance on a situation that does not need puffing up or dominance. So that was Brayden's sort of like dismissal. Like, "Hey, you're doing it. You're big and strong. Leave me alone." Very quickly, the other men basically gather around the car, and now everybody's yelling at Brayden. It's all very dumb to me. At some point, Sean needs some attention, so he says some things. And you'll note that Joey, Dotun, and Xavier are nowhere to be seen. They're just quiet. They're very embarrassed by the whole thing. I'm just over it. Brayden is not the villain anymore. On one end, I completely understand wanting to just hit the eject button and just launch Brayden out of there. He has a big personality. He really flings the energy around. And in the presence of a bunch of 9s that just don't want disruption, yeah, that's probably very annoying to deal with. And also the fact that every single cocktail party up until this point has been interrupted by Brayden. So yeah, get him the fuck out. But on the other end, Brayden didn't actually do anything. Like, who brought Brayden up to Charity the first time? It was Adrian. Who brought him up the second time? It was, what's his name? Aaron. Thank God I'm forgetting his name. I don't like Brayden. I think his personality is annoying. But yeah, I was like really annoyed to see this like dumb mob mentality on him on the way out. It's just kind of lame for me. Okay, Brayden is gone. We cut back to John trying to finish his time with Charity when Jessie comes in and announces the rose ceremony. She only has 3 roses. She gives the first one to Aaron, which is whatever. She gives the second one to Tanner for some reason. And she gives the third one to Sean. Why? Why are we giving any attention to Sean? He probably just sold his soul to the devil for more screen time. And so he's going to get his screen time. Going home are Caleb B, whose reaction was wonderful. We have like barely seen Caleb B, but his like exit was him crying to the camera, talking about how amazing Charity is and how she's going to be taken care of by whoever ends up as her husband. And I just love him. He's just like a dumb love jock. Beautiful. Michael leaves and John leaves. I don't know why John was given so much screen time if he was just going to leave with like no significant story. I don't know. There's a suggestion that somebody's going to come later in the season, so maybe it's John. Anyway, a lot of the men are crying. Xavier is crying. I think because his like buddies are leaving, which is cute. And yeah, we are done. This episode was fine. It was entertaining for me, but I'm really just bored with the same narrative. I'm ready for some new shit to happen. So hopefully we get that next week. The teaser, the preview for the next week has a bunch of people saying they're falling in love. Charity is in love with more than one person. Somebody's coming back. And somebody's not ready for marriage. And I hope so bad that it's Aaron. I want so bad for the person not ready for marriage to be Aaron, so he can just put his foot in his mouth. Okay, that about wraps it up. Guys, please check out the references that I have linked in the description box. These are the people that I learned the Enneagram from and now get to continue learning the Enneagram with. They are very, very brilliant people that have had some really important insights on the Enneagram. As usual, let me know what you thought about the episode, if you disagreed with me, if you did agree with me, what your predictions are, any insights you have to offer. And I will see you in the next video.